Welcome to English Stories Journey. Listen, relax, and grow your English with every story. Emma had walked the same route home from work 1,000 times, yet that night something was different. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, shining like glass under the dim yellow lamps. She was tired, her thoughts heavy, and she almost missed it. The door. It was set into the wall of an alley she had never noticed before. A narrow green door, old and cracked, with iron hinges that seemed too strong for such rotten wood. No shops stood nearby, no apartments, no reason for it to exist. It was just there. Emma stopped. The alley was silent, darker than it should have been. For a moment, she thought she heard something. A whisper, maybe? The sound of pages turning? She shook her head. Ridiculous. But when she stepped closer, the door pulsed faintly, as if it were breathing. Her hand rose on its own, brushing the cold metal handle. She told herself she would only look, only see what was behind it. Just curiosity. Yet when the door swung open, the air rushed out in a sigh, pulling her inside. The library stretched farther than her eyes could follow. Shelves upon shelves, rising high into shadows that swallowed the ceiling. The air smelled of dust, ink, and something sharp, like iron. Books lined every wall, endless rows of them, their spines glowing faintly in the dim light. No sound of people, no footsteps, only silence. Emma whispered, "Hello?" Her voice carried strangely, as if the shelves themselves were listening. She almost laughed nervously, but then she saw him. A man stood between two rows of books. His face was pale, skin like paper, and his eyes reflected the dim light as though made of glass. He wore a long coat, dark and neat, though he seemed older than the coat itself. "Welcome, reader," he said softly. Emma's throat tightened. I didn't mean to come in. I didn't even know this was here." The man's smile did not move to his eyes. No one does. The library finds its readers when the time is right. His voice was calm, but it chilled her. She looked around. What kind of library is this? He stepped closer. A library of lives. Each book holds a person's story, their past, their future, their secrets. Emma shivered. "That's impossible." The man tilted his head. "And yet, you are here. Would you like to see your book?" Before she could answer, he lifted a hand. A heavy volume slid out from a shelf nearby and floated toward him, landing gently in his palm. The cover was dark leather, cracked with age. On the front, in faded gold letters, was her name. Emma's breath caught. She reached out with trembling hands. The leather was warm, almost alive. She opened the book. The first page was filled with handwriting that looked disturbingly like her own. It described her childhood, the town she grew up in, the games she played with her brother. The words captured memories she had forgotten, details she never told anyone, like the blue ribbon she lost on her first day of school, the one she had cried about for hours. Her hands shook as she turned another page. It described her first job, her first heartbreak, her small apartment. It even mentioned how she had passed this alley hundreds of times without noticing the door, until tonight. Her mouth went dry. This is my life." The man nodded once. Every choice written, every mistake, every hope, every ending. She stared at him. "Ending? You mean..." He did not answer. Emma looked down at the book again. Her eyes fell on a dark smear across the next page. She touched it with her fingertip. The mark was sticky. Red. Blood. She snapped the book shut and stumbled back. What is this? The man's pale eyes watched her. Not every story ends with light. Some are written in shadow, some in blood. Her stomach twisted. She wanted to leave, to run back through the door, but when she turned her head, she realized she could no longer see the entrance. The shelves stretched endlessly, the rows shifting like a maze. She turned back to the man. I don't want this. I don't want to know. But he had vanished. Emma's chest rose and fell too quickly. Her hands clutched the book against her, her own name burning on the cover. Her voice echoed as she whispered, "This is a dream. Just a dream." But the book was heavy in her hands, warm, real. Somewhere deeper in the library, a sound broke the silence. A faint thud, then another. Footsteps. Emma froze. She was not alone. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No answer. Only the sound of steps, slower now, as though whoever it was didn't want to be found. Her heart hammered. She took a step back. The shelves seemed taller, the shadows deeper. The footsteps stopped. Then she heard it. A whisper, soft and close, though no one stood near her. "Keep reading, Emma." Emma pressed her back against the cold wood of the shelf, clutching the heavy book to her chest. The silence after the whisper was unbearable. She strained her ears, waiting for another sound, but there was nothing. Then, footsteps again, slow, steady, coming closer. Her breath caught. She crouched low, peering through the gaps between the books. Shadows stretched along the floor like long fingers, moving with each step. Whoever it was stopped just on the other side of the shelf. Emma bit her lip to keep from gasping. For a long moment there was no movement. Then the footsteps turned and faded, echoing down another corridor of shelves. Emma exhaled shakily. She told herself to leave, to find the exit, but when she turned to look behind her, the rows of books only seemed to multiply, stretching endlessly in every direction. No door, no way back. And then she heard it. A crash, loud, violent. Books slamming to the ground somewhere deeper inside. Her heart jumped. She should run the other way, but her legs betrayed her. Against reason, she began walking toward the noise. The corridor stretched on, the shelves towering like silent guards. The light grew weaker the further she went, the shadows thicker. Her shoes brushed against scattered books on the floor, volumes tossed aside, their pages bent, as though someone had fled in panic. She rounded a corner and froze. A man lay sprawled between two shelves. His arms were twisted awkwardly, his eyes wide, staring at nothing. His throat was cut in a clean, straight line. Blood had soaked into the carpet beneath him, dark and glistening in the dim light. Emma dropped her book. It hit the floor with a thud. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This can't be real. It's not possible." She wanted to step back, but her feet were rooted. She could not look away from his face. His hand was clenched tight around a single torn page. The paper was stained red at the edges. Emma forced herself to kneel. Her hands shook as she pried the paper free. She expected it to crumble, but it felt strong, heavy, almost alive. She looked at the words. Her blood turned cold. It was written in the same handwriting as her book. Her name appeared at the top of the page. The words beneath described her, word for word. She will find the body before the others. She will take the page, and then it will be taken from her. Emma's breath came too fast. Her vision blurred. She dropped the paper. A shadow stretched across the aisle. Emma jerked her head up. The keeper stood at the end of the corridor, pale and silent, his glassy eyes fixed on her. Her voice cracked. Did you kill him?" The keeper tilted his head, lips curling faintly. He read a book he should not have touched. The library punishes greed. Emma scrambled to her feet. "This is insane. Call the police." But when she blinked, the keeper was gone. The shadows where he had stood were empty. A sound behind her made her spin around. Figures emerged from the shelves, not shadows, not whispers. People. A small group, 3 women and 2 men, stepping cautiously into the aisle. Each carried a book. Each wore the same look of confusion and fear that Emma felt. The tallest man pointed to the body. "Another one." Emma's stomach twisted. "Another? You mean this has happened before?" The woman nearest her nodded grimly. "This isn't the first body in this place, and it won't be the last." Emma shook her head, clutching at her arms. "What is this place? What's happening?" No one answered. Their eyes were fixed on the dead man, on the blood stain, soaking into the carpet. One of the women crossed herself. Another turned away, covering her mouth. Emma bent down again and picked up the torn page. She held it out. "Look, he was holding this. It's about me. It says, 'I'll find the body, and then it will be taken.'" The paper was snatched from her hand. Emma gasped. She spun, but the group was too close together, their faces unreadable. None of them admitted to taking it. The page was gone, vanished into someone's pocket. "You saw that! One of you took it!" But their silence was worse than denial. The group argued, their voices low but sharp. Some wanted to leave the body and move on. Others insisted on searching for a way out. The smallest woman whispered that the library itself was hunting them. Emma hugged herself, her eyes darting from one stranger to the next. She didn't trust them. She couldn't. And then the lights flickered. For a moment, the library plunged into darkness. Total, suffocating black. Her breath caught. She felt movement near her shoulder, the brush of someone's sleeve. Then light returned. The body on the floor hadn't moved, but the bloodstain had spread, dark fingers crawling further across the carpet. And somewhere in the distance, a scream tore through the silence. High, sharp, filled with terror, then cut off. The group stared at one another, faces pale. Emma whispered, "There's someone else here." Her words trembled in the air like fragile glass. They all knew the truth. Someone or something was killing inside the library, and they were trapped with it. The scream still echoed in Emma's head. It had been sharp, desperate, then cut short. Now the library was silent again, far too silent. The group stood frozen, their faces pale in the dim light. Finally, the tall man broke the silence. "We need to move." "No," the youngest woman whispered. "If we move, we'll die, just like them." Emma hugged her arms. Her heartbeat hadn't slowed since the first body. She could still see his eyes, glassy and staring. And the torn page vanished. Someone in this group had taken it. They hesitated, until the tall man started forward. Reluctantly, the others followed. Emma trailed behind, her book heavy in her hands. The path twisted, the shelves endless. They turned corner after corner until they reached another aisle. Books were scattered everywhere, some torn, others lying open with pages fluttering as though touched by invisible hands. At the center of the mess was a wide stain on the floor. Dark, wet, blood. But no body. Emma's breath caught. Where is he? The others looked around nervously, their faces blanched. One of the women whispered, "It took him." Emma turned sharply. "What do you mean, it?" The woman didn't answer. She just shook her head, eyes wide. The group clustered together, each staring at the stain, the fallen books. The missing body was worse than the dead one. At least a body could be explained. This was something else.
The tall man straightened. "We should introduce ourselves. No more shadows. If we're going to survive this, we need to know who we're with." A reluctant silence. Then, one by one, they spoke. "I'm Anna," said the stern-looking woman with gray streaks in her hair. Her arms were crossed tightly, her voice hard. "Mark," said the bitter man in his 40s. He didn't look anyone in the eye. "Clara," whispered the pale woman who kept biting her nails. Her hands shook as she tucked them into her sleeves. "Simon," said the tall, sharp-eyed man. He was the one who always spoke with calm authority, though his calmness made Emma uneasy. "Leah," said the youngest, barely more than a girl. She hugged her book like a shield, eyes darting from face to face. And then there was Emma. "Emma," she said softly. Her voice felt too loud in the silence. 6 strangers, all bound by books they hadn't asked for, all trapped in a library that smelled faintly of dust and iron. "We should tell each other what our books say," Clara whispered suddenly. Mark barked a humorless laugh. "No chance. My life's my business." Emma clutched her book tighter. She couldn't imagine reading aloud what she'd seen, especially not the blood on the page. Simon's eyes glinted. "Secrets kill. Maybe that's the point. If we don't share, we'll keep dying one by one." Anna glared at him. "Or maybe the killer just wants us to talk." "Killer?" Emma repeated, her throat tight. Anna gestured to the stain on the floor. "What else do you call this?" Emma's words spilled out before she could stop them. The first man, the one with the cut throat, he was holding a page. It had my name on it. It said I would find him. And then someone took it from me. Every head turned toward her. Leah's eyes narrowed. "Maybe you wrote it yourself." Emma shook her head violently. "No, it was real. You saw it." Mark's lip curled. "Funny how the only proof is gone." Her hands shook. "I didn't do anything. Someone took it from me." But the way they looked at her made her stomach twist. Suspicion darkened every face. Then a chill swept through the aisle. The lights above flickered. Shadows deepened. Emma turned sharply, and there he was again. The keeper. His pale figure stood at the far end, still as stone.
"Your lives are written," he said softly, his voice carrying without effort. "Your endings are near. The library does not lie." Emma stepped forward. "What do you mean? Did you kill them? Who's doing this?" But before she finished, he was gone. The others stared, shaken. Simon muttered, "He's playing with us." Anna said coldly, "Or, telling the truth." Emma's hands trembled as she lifted her book. She flipped through the pages desperately, searching for something, anything. Then her fingers froze. There it was, the missing page. It was tucked between 2 chapters in her book, but the words had changed.
The second death has already begun. Her blood ran cold. She looked up, eyes wide. It's here! The page! It says someone else is dying. Before anyone could answer, footsteps thundered through the shelves, running, fast. The group spun around. A figure burst into view, stumbling into the aisle. He was young, with wild eyes and blood smeared across his hands. His chest heaved as he gasped for air. The group recoiled. Emma's voice shook. Who are you?" The stranger looked at his stained hands, then at the group. His voice cracked. "It's not what you think."
The man's eyes darted wildly, his breath sharp and shallow. His hands shook, smeared with blood that dripped onto the polished floor. For a long moment, no one moved. The library around them was silent, except for the faint rustle of unseen pages. Emma's voice cracked. What happened to you?" The man staggered forward, his shoulders bent under an invisible weight. "He's here," he whispered, his words barely audible. "One of us. He's one of us." Clara gasped, covering her mouth. Simon stepped forward, calm but watchful. "What do you mean? Who?" But the man collapsed before answering, his body trembling. Emma dropped to her knees beside him. His pulse was faint, his breath ragged. She wanted to help, but the way his eyes darted toward the dark corners of the library made her own blood run cold. The keeper's shadow passed silently at the end of the aisle, watching without interference. Emma felt the terrible truth settle in her chest. The keeper would not save them. When the man finally stilled, his hand fell away from his chest. Blood smeared across the floor in the shape of broken lines, like writing half-finished. Emma stared until Simon pulled her back. "We need to move," he said, his voice flat, practical. "If he's right, then we can't trust everyone here." The group split, panic unraveling what little unity they had left. Clara and Emma followed Simon into the twisting shelves. The air grew heavier, colder, as if the library itself fed on their fear. Every aisle looked the same. Every turn bled into another, endless and disorienting. The library shifted under their feet, turning familiar paths into labyrinths. Somewhere in the distance, a scream cut through the silence. Emma froze, heart hammering. Another victim. Clara clutched Emma's arm. "We have to go back. We have to find the others." Simon shook his head. "No, that's what it wants. We keep moving." His calmness chilled Emma more than the scream. They pressed deeper into the shelves. Shadows flickered, stretching long and thin, twisting like living things. Emma's skin crawled. She felt watched, hunted, though she couldn't tell by what. Then they found another body. The woman lay slumped against the shelves, eyes open, mouth frozen in a silent cry. Books surrounded her, torn apart, their pages scattered like feathers. Clara sobbed, pressing her face against Emma's shoulder. Emma's book pulsed in her hand, and when she opened it, glowing words appeared. "Secrets rot. Blood answers blood. Failed to see the truth, and you will be next." Her stomach twisted. The dying man's words came back to her. "He's one of us." Was the killer among them, or was the library twisting their minds until they turned on each other? As they moved on, Emma noticed Simon walking slightly ahead, his eyes sharp, scanning every corner. His calm composure unsettled her now. How could he remain so steady while others broke apart? She thought of the man's trembling hands, the blood staining his fingers. His last words had been a warning, not a riddle. Someone here was responsible. Emma clutched her book tighter. She had to stay alive long enough to find out who. The silence pressed on Emma's ears as they moved deeper into the library. Each step echoed too loudly, as if the shelves listened. She wanted to scream, to demand answers,
but fear locked her throat. Simon walked ahead, calm as ever, his shoulders squared, his steps steady. Clara clung to Emma's arm, trembling, whispering prayers under her breath. Emma couldn't shake the man's dying words. "He's one of us." They circled in her mind like vultures. Someone among them was the true killer. But who? They turned a corner and entered a wide chamber, larger than the others. The shelves formed a circle, enclosing a single table. On it lay scattered pages, torn fragments of the books they had all carried. Emma's breath caught. She rushed forward, gathering the pieces with shaking hands. They glowed faintly, alive with words that burned into her eyes. Clara whimpered, "Don't touch them." But Emma was already reading. The fragments revealed secrets. A woman had stolen from her dying mother. A man had betrayed his closest friend. Another had hidden a terrible crime behind a mask of respectability. The victims hadn't been random. They had been chosen. Chosen for judgment. Emma's stomach twisted. The library wasn't only killing, it was exposing. Her hands trembled as she lifted one more fragment. The letters seared her vision. The calm man watches. His hands are clean, but his heart is soaked. Emma's gaze shot to Simon. He was watching her carefully, too carefully. His eyes didn't flick to the fragments in fear or shame. He studied her, as if measuring how much she had seen. She swallowed hard, hiding the page in her palm. Then Clara screamed. Emma whirled to see her friend staring at her own book, face pale, hands shaking. The words inside glowed so brightly they lit the chamber. Clara dropped the book as if it burned her. Emma snatched it up before it hit the floor. One line blazed across the page. She pushed him down the stairs. She laughed when he broke. Emma froze. "Clara, is this true?" Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "It was an accident, I swear. It wasn't supposed to happen." The shelves groaned, shifting violently. Shadows surged, twisting around Clara. She screamed, trying to rise, but the shelves closed like jaws. In a blink, she was gone. Emma stumbled back, her heart slamming in her chest. Only Simon remained. He stepped closer, his face calm, unreadable. "Now it's just us," he said softly. Emma's hands clenched around her book and the fragments. "You knew," she whispered. "You've been watching all along. You knew they were guilty. You wanted them gone." Simon tilted his head. "The library reveals the truth, but truth alone isn't enough. It needs judgment." Emma's throat tightened. "You killed them." His lips curved into a faintest smile. "The library demands blood. I gave it freely." Emma felt the cold weight of terror settle in her bones. The man's warning had been right. The killer was not the shelves, not the keeper. It was Simon. Her book pulsed hot in her hand. She opened it. The words burned into her eyes. "Now your truth will be revealed." Emma looked down and froze. The page showed her darkest secret, the one she had buried so deeply that not even her family knew. She had let someone suffer to save herself. She had looked away when help was needed. Shame and dread coursed through her veins. Simon's eyes narrowed as he stepped closer. What did it say? Emma snapped the book shut, clutching it to her chest. Nothing. But his calm smile told her he didn't believe her. The shelves groaned again, the library shifting. Books toppled, dust filled the air, and the whispering voices rose. Truth, blood, judgment. Emma backed away, fragments clutched in her hand, her heart thundering. She knew the final choice was coming. Either she exposed Simon, or he would expose her. And in the midnight library, exposure meant death.
The shelves shook, as if the library itself had awakened. Dust rained from above, and the voices grew louder, their whispers twisting into words Emma could finally understand. Truth, blood, end. Simon stood only a few steps away, his shadow long against the broken floor. His calm face was more frightening than rage could ever be. "Emma," he said, his voice low, almost tender, "there's no use hiding. The library already knows. It always knows." Emma clutched her book tighter. Its cover burned hot in her hands. She wanted to throw it away, to run, but she knew it was useless. The library wasn't a place you could escape.
Not unless it allowed you. Simon took another step forward. I saw the words on your page. I know what you did. Her heart slammed. You don't know anything. But his smile widened slightly. You let someone die, didn't you? You could have stopped it. You chose not to. Emma's throat tightened. Memories she had buried deep rushed up like poison. A night, a cry for help, her fear, her hesitation, and then silence. She had never forgiven herself, but she had also never admitted it, until now. The shelves creaked around them, leaning closer, as if the library itself waited for her confession. Emma forced herself to lift her head. Maybe I did. Maybe I failed. But that doesn't make me like you. Simon's calm broke. His eyes hardened, his voice sharp as a blade. You don't understand. I gave the library what it wanted. I judged them. I kept order. You're weak. And weakness has no place here. He lunged. Emma dodged, the book nearly slipping from her grasp. She stumbled into the circle of shelves, scattering the fragments she had carried. Pages spun into the air, glowing with secrets. Simon grabbed her wrist, forcing the book open. The glowing words spilled out, lighting the chamber. Emma screamed and twisted, using every ounce of strength to pull free. The book fell between them, pages fluttering. One fragment landed at Simon's feet. He glanced down. The words glowed bright red. The calm man's truth. He killed before he ever entered the library. He came here not to read, but to continue. Simon's eyes widened. His calm mask cracked, fury flooding his face. He stomped the fragment, trying to destroy it, but the words only burned brighter, searing into the floor. The shelves roared, the voices screamed, judged, judged, judged. Emma stumbled back, shielding her eyes. The shelves closed around Simon, wooden arms twisting like roots, wrapped around his body. He shouted, struggling, his calm voice gone, replaced by raw, terrified rage. Emma, help me! You're guilty too! They'll take you next. The shelves swallowed him whole, his scream cut off in an instant. The chamber fell silent, except for Emma's ragged breathing. Her knees buckled, but she forced herself to stay standing. She was the last one left. Slowly, the shelves shifted, opening a narrow path. At the end of it stood the keeper, tall and faceless, holding a book with a blank cover. Emma's book pulsed in her hands, then fell open on its own. The final page was empty. The keeper's voice filled the chamber, low and endless. Your truth has been written. Now you must write your ending. Emma stared at the page. Her hands shook. Every breath hurt. She wanted to scream that she wanted to go home, that she wanted to forget, that she wanted this nightmare to end. But the page remained blank, waiting, demanding. The keeper stepped closer. Will you run from truth or write it? Emma raised the pen that had appeared in her hand. She looked at the empty page, then at the endless shelves around her. Her hand trembled. The tip of the pen touched the paper. She began to write. The library groaned in approval, the shelves closing in like a heartbeat. The candlelight flickered, then went out.
Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe for more English stories.